Alright, so this is something that I really never thought I was ever gonna say in my life. I never thought that this was something that anyone would ever say in their life, but I guess I was wrong on that one because, folks, I hate to say this, because I know a lot of you live in one, but skyscrapers are sexist. Yeah, you heard that right. Skyscrapers are bad. Bad skyscrapers, so you gotta think about it, right? According to this article, at least, you gotta think about it this way, man. You know, these buildings, they're upward thrusting, they're shaped like and why? You gotta see all of this around the city all the time? Why do they have to be so sexist? So I have seen this article that absolutely encapsulates all parts of my mind, and I just have to share it with you guys, because this is golden, man. Whoever wrote this, they need a raise. They need millions of dollars a year, just because they're that good at writing, man. They are the next Stephen King, because the fiction that they write is out of this world. It's toxic masculinity to live, work, play, anything in any skyscrapers, man. It's nuts. And, of course, I don't mean that with a pun, but glass ceilings and phallic towers, mean streets and dark alleys, road names and statues of men. From the physical to the metaphorical, this city is filled with reminders of masculine power. And yet, we rarely talk of the urban landscape as an active participant in gender inequality. A building, no matter how phallic, isn't actually misogynist, is it? Surely a skyscraper isn't responsible for sexual harassment, the wage gap, or even the glass ceiling, whether it has a literal one up top or not? Okay. Let's think about that one, okay? The city is filled with reminders of masculine power, okay? There's statues of men everywhere, but let's consider the following. What have those men done to help society? I'm just gonna think about my city. For example here, we have a female statue, okay? I can think of that one. We have one male statue, and I can't think of any others that we have outside of that. So we have one male and one female. That's pretty equal, right? You know what I'm saying? They both were very accomplished. They're both very accomplished pieces of art, as is, and they have a lot of significance. So, you think about the statues, what have they done? You got a statue downtown of one of the presidents. It wasn't like they were the, president of the United States of America or anything crazy like that. That's not a very major accomplishment or anything crazy. Maybe the founder of your city is honored with a statue downtown. It's not like he founded an entire city or anything crazy like that, but yeah. The mean streets and dark alleys, those are extremely masculine features, right? Because men are mean and they're dark. That said, our built environments can still reflect patterns of gender-based discrimination. To imagine the city and its structures as neutral places where complicated human social relations are staged is to ignore the simple fact that people built these places. As the feminist geographer Jane Dark has said, quote, "Our cities are patriarchy written in stone, brick, glass, and concrete." In other words, cities reflect the norms of the societies that build them, and sexism is a deep-rooted norm. Okay, well, let's break that one down a little bit here. You want to know why stone, brick, glass, and concrete are such common building materials? Because they're extremely strong. If you build something out of wood, it can burn really easily. It could collapse if the wood warps and ages. It requires a lot of maintenance and a lot of treatment and things like that. Termites just go crazy for those things. But if you build something in brick, it's a little bit harder to burn. You build something out of concrete, doesn't burn as easily. It's a lot stronger, so especially when you're talking about a skyscraper, which goes really high, the wind is a lot more powerful up there. It blows in gusts a lot harder. Buildings made out of concrete and things like that, they sway in the wind, but, they wouldn't completely collapse, at least most of the time. They're pretty strong. I think that those factors, right, have a lot more to do with why buildings this tall are built out of these materials than just, oh, we're just a bunch of men and we really like these materials. And yeah, you're right, people built these places, but I mean, let's think about maybe the makeup of who built these buildings. I'm gonna imagine that it was mostly men who built those buildings. So here's a little fact for you. In 2016, the amount of, let's just think about it between male and female, the amount of people who were male in the construction workforce, 88%. 88%. Almost 9 out of every 10 people in the construction industry, as of just a few years ago, were men. And why is it that women aren't just, going out building skyscrapers. Well, they are a lot more now than they were back in the day. But I mean, when a lot of these skyscrapers were built, it was probably pretty much all men who built them. So, yeah, I mean, it's, I guess, logic that supersedes their abilities. The office tower, she wrote, is one more addition, quote, to the procession of phallic monuments in history, including poles, obelisks, spires, columns, and watchtowers, where architects unironically used the language of base, shaft, and tip while drawing upward-thrusting buildings, shooting light into the night sky. Okay, once again, let's think about this logically, which I know hurts because, you can't do it, but when it comes down to poles, obelisks, spires, columns, and watchtowers, they're built because when it comes down to the function of those objects, they need to do that. They need to be upward and tall. A pole is usually meant to hang something up high, right? You got a pole, has the street lights on it. You can't put that sideways. It can't be horizontal. It has to be vertical. Obelisks, that's just how they were designed. I mean, they just reached high up into the sky because that's what they were. They weren't like, oh, this is shaped like my meat, Spires and columns, once again, that's what they do. They're not meant to be horizontal, they're meant to go fucking up. And watchtowers, how are you supposed to see across high distances on Earth, which curves, okay, if you don't go up? The higher up you go, the more that you can see, generally speaking. I know that this is like elementary school education just completely gone from your memory, but, I mean, come on. And when it comes to the base, shaft, and tip, let's think about this possibility, Maybe architects and engineers were using those terms first, and then they got colloquially basically turned into just slang for other things going on. That probably, that's probably not what happened, right? Engineers were probably like, okay, so what do we use to describe the foundation of something? Basically starting at zero. Oh, the base. Oh, okay, yeah, I got a base for you too. Okay, so what about this larger centerpiece that goes up and maybe holds something up at the top, We could call it a midsection. Well, no, we could just call it a shaft, That's a good word for it. Yeah, got one of those too. What about the up piece that goes all the way at the very top? Well, let's just call it the tip. I mean, come on. What did you think those words came from, honestly? If the sexism of the city began and ended with architectural symbolism, I would have happily written a grad school essay about this and then turned my attention to more pressing matters. You most likely would have failed. But society's historical and ongoing ideas about the proper gender roles for men and women organized along a narrow binary are built right into our cities, and they still matter. They still matter to me as a mother. They matter to me as a busy professor who often finds herself in strange cities, wondering if it's okay to pop out into the neighborhood pub alone. Ask any woman who's tried to bring a pram onto a bus, breastfeed in a park, or go for a jog at night. She intuitively understands the message that the city sends her. This place is not for you. Okay, you know what? I kind of understand, right? There's a lot of stigma around breastfeeding. It has nothing to do with the fact that it's a city park, and that's how it was designed. It's more or less a social stigma. It has nothing to do, once again, with the, buildings around you or anything. And going for a jog at night, once again, it's not really the cityscape that's at fault. It's kind of just creepy men. It's not like the park has signs up that say women who breastfeed are horrible human beings and should basically be alienated and just hated. And the fact that you're a professor scares me because you're supposed to be educating people, but then you're saying shit like this. I mean, I very big conflict of interest, you would think. And when we're talking about proper gender roles, in my lifetime, I've seen those basically become non-existent, the gender roles are disappearing very quickly. You know what I'm saying? Men can do whatever they want and women can do whatever they want. Most people understand and agree with that message. The only people who really give a shit about gender roles, generally speaking, are older people. I mean, what is it, 1932? Is that what year you think we're in? Come on. During the Industrial Revolution, the populations of European cities and many others in the colonized world grew rapidly. They became flashpoints for moral panic about how gender norms were changing. The teeming streets threatened the neatly defined spaces that kept the classes apart, increasing the risk that women, especially, would have their virtue tainted by rubbing shoulders with workers, immigrants, poor people, the quote, other. Yeah, this seems to have a lot to do with just being classist than actually just not hating, just hating women, I guess, I got a feeling that, rich men didn't want their women touching poor men or poor women. I don't think they really cared whether or not, oh, my wife has now touched a poor female. She now must be thrown out in the garbage. I just got a feeling that, if some poor dude, who was working and barely making any money, If some coal miner touched the CEO of the Standard Oil Company back in the day, it probably would have and warrant the same reaction, regardless of if they were male or female. So, I mean, come on. I don't know. It feels like this is so easy to just beat with logic, but if the disorder of cities was a threat to certain women, and the disorder of certain women a threat to cities, the suburbs could provide a solution. Early ads for the London Tube depicted such areas as Golders Green as refuges where women would be safe and conveniently preoccupied with homemaking and child-rearing, while fathers could easily access the city via expanded underground routes. Okay, so that happened like 100 years ago, but what about now, Because you're making the point that cities and skyscrapers are sexist, but what about now? Gender roles, once again, are very rapidly deteriorating, It's not like men are just like, oh, women must sit at home and make my kids. And if dinner isn't done by 5 p.m., I swear to God I'm gonna lose it on her. Like, it's not 1945 anymore. Women are entering the workforce constantly. Women are doing things that men traditionally did constantly. It's not considered that big of a deal. As a matter of fact, the only people considering it a big deal are people like yourself. Like, where today is it like women all must do homemaking and child rearing? Men go to work and explore the city. What, in like, I don't know, Saudi Arabia and Iran maybe, where women essentially have no rights whatsoever? Yeah, that's probably true, but I mean, your whole point has been about these fucking Western cities pretty much, just being horrible for women. But then when it comes down to skyscrapers and all these things being horrible, you can't provide any real reason unless you go back 100 years. So, yeah. I mean, I think that's really all I need to prove. It's all I really need to say. I mean, I think we can all agree. Skyscrapers, they're horrible, they're sexist, and their symbolism of men needs to be taken down. We should all just live in rectangles that are built neatly throughout the city, and they can't be made out of brick, glass, stone, and concrete because those are men. Those are from men. They are the ones who chose those, conveniently strong materials that are really good for building with. We should just build them all out of cotton balls, paper, and twigs we find from under trees, because that makes a lot of sense. It's crazy that professors, even, are saying this ignorant shit, because it's completely ridiculous and untrue, and it just honestly comes off to me as, hey, let me say something with some shock value that's really stupid and get people a little riled up so I can make money off of a book. So, yeah, with that being said, though, thank you guys for watching. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like, subscribe if you're brand new around here on the channel, follow me over on Twitter and Twitch at @SubTheOptimus. Make sure to check out Shop Opti down below. Thank you to my channel members. Your support helps my channel tremendously. And until my next video, guys, this is Optimus, hating skyscrapers, and signing out.